So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going through the practice paper 2023 higher paper set to paper 1, which is a non-calculator paper. Now as always, I'll include a question breakdown in the description below so you can see which question refers to which topic in case you struggle with a particular question, and so you can see which topic you probably need to go back and review and revise. So let's get straight into this practice paper 2023 set to paper 1, which is a non-calculator paper. So looking at question 1, it says to multiply out this bracket, so that should be relatively simple. So we've got x times x, which is x squared, plus x times 3, which is 3x. Then with question 2, it says work out 61.6 times 10 to the power 3 in standard form. Well, what we need to do is we need to make this number smaller by moving the decimal point one place. So that becomes 6.16. And if we make this number smaller, then we need to make the power bigger. So that's going to be 6.16 times 10 to the power of 4. Then with question 3, it says write 0.04 as a fraction of 0.8 in its simplest form. So we write this number as our numerator. We write this number as our denominator. And then what we need to do is just multiply by powers of 10 to make these numbers non-decimal. So if we multiply both numbers by 100, that should give us 4 over 80, and then we can simplify this fraction, which gives us 1 over 20. Then for question 4, it says a base of a pyramid has n sides. Write down the expression of n for the number of faces in the pyramid. So again, if we had a square base pyramid, then we're going to be looking at 5 faces. If we had a triangular base pyramid, we're looking at 4 faces. So this is when n equals 4, this is when n equals 3. And if we had a pentagon prism, we're looking at when n equals 5, and here we've got 6 faces. So if we had n faces, then n sides, then to get the number of faces we just need to add 1. So the expression is going to be n plus 1. Moving on to question 5. Now this one is going to be a bit of a challenge to do on the computer, so let me just talk you through how we go about this. So we need to work out the perpendicular bisector, or draw the perpendicular bisector rather, of A and B. Now with this, what you want to do is you want to draw a circle with your compass with centre of one of the points, and you need to make sure that that circle is the same, just a bit bigger than halfway between A and B. Then what you then need to do is to draw the same circle without adjusting your compass. Let me just do this a little bit better. And put that, so what we should have, so that's with the center of A, and is it going to let me? Yep. And this is going to be with the center of B, so you should have something that looks like this. Now again, as long as your circle goes more than halfway between A and B, then that should be absolutely fine. And then what you then need to do is to draw a line going through the 2 intersection points. So, and this again is going to be extremely a bit fiddly to do on the computer, but with a compass and a pencil it should be relatively easier. And so you should have something that looks like that. And then again, what you might want to do is do it with dashed lines and like so, but you definitely do not want to rub out your arcs or your circles that you've drawn. So this line here is going to be the answer. And again, the center of each of those circles is put on A and B respectively. So moving on to question 6, it says 2 identical circles just fit inside a rectangle as shown. Work out the area of the shaded section, and we need to give our answer in terms of pi. So first things first, what we need to do is first of all say how we're going to work out what the shaded area is. Well, the shaded area is the area of the big shape, which is a rectangle, minus the area of the 2 circles. So looking at the diagram, well, we know that if the total length of two circles which are the same is going to be 12, that the diameter of each of those circles is going to be 6 and the radius is going to be 3. So here the height of that rectangle is going to be 6. So to work out the area of the rectangle, that's going to be 12 times 6, which equals 72. And the area of a circle, well, that's pi r squared, so that's going to be 9 times pi, but I've got 2 of those, so I need to multiply by 2, so that gives me 18 pi. So then working out the final answer, I've just got to take away those two things, which is 72 minus 18 pi. Moving on to question 7, it says brass is made by mixing 7 parts of copper with 3 parts of zinc. Fred has 35 kilograms of copper and 12 kilograms of zinc. What is the greatest amount of brass he can make? Well, looking at this, what I've got to do is look at the ratio of brass to zinc, which is in the ratio of 7 to 3. So looking at the copper, so using all the copper, now what I get is that 35 kilograms equals 7 parts. So 1 part is going to equal 5 kilograms. So therefore I'm going to need 3 times 5, because there's 3 parts of zinc, 15 kgs of zinc, which unfortunately I can't make because I've only got 12. So that there is not possible. So now let's move on to using all the zinc, what should I say, all the zinc. Then what we end up with is that 12 kilograms equals 3 parts. So 1 part is going to equal 4. So then 7 parts is going to equal 4 times 7, which is 28 kgs of zinc. So then from this, if I total up the 12 grams of zinc and the 28 grams of copper, so actually that should be copper, not zinc, let me just get rid of that, then the most I can make is going to be 12 plus 28, which is 40 kilograms. Moving on to question 8a, it says Eve drove 180 miles from Cardiff to Leeds. She drove the first 125 miles at 50 miles per hour and then the remaining distance at 60 miles per hour. Find the total time that Eve was driving. So if we look at the first part of the journey, we've got 125 miles and 50 miles per hour. So using speed, distance, time, then what we've got is the time taken is going to be 125 times 50, or divided by 50, which if I write as a fraction should be easy for me to simplify. So I could divide both numbers by 25, so that becomes 5 over 2, which is 2.5 hours. Then if I move on to the second part of the journey, well, for the second part, we've got the total distance is going to be 180 minus 125, so that's 55 miles. And the speed at which we're travelling at, or Eve is travelling at, is 60 miles per hour. So then to work out time, that's going to be the distance, which is 55, divided by 60, and that then becomes, well, I've already got it over 60, which therefore means that this is going to be 55 minutes. So then the total time is going to be 2 hours and 30 minutes plus 55 minutes, which gives me a total time of 3 hours and 25 minutes. It then says for 8b that if Eve drove the whole distance at 50 miles per hour, how would this affect her journey time? So you can have either one of these particular statements. So you could say that she'll be travelling slower, or she'll be going slower in speed, which also therefore means it's going to take more time. Or you could say that the journey is going to take longer. So something along those lines would be absolutely fine for the 1 mark. Moving on to question 9, it says that a bag contains 20 green balls and 12 yellow balls. Bag B contains 15 green balls and 9 yellow balls. John says it's more likely to get a green ball is chosen from bag A than bag B. This is because there are more green balls in bag A than bag B. Is he correct? And we need to tick yes or no. Now with these questions, try not to tick your box first. Try and do your working out first and then decide whether it's going to be yes or no. So what we want to do is, first of all, from bag A, work out the probability of getting a green. So that's going to be 20 over 32 in total. And if I simplify that fraction, I get 5 over 8. Then for bag B, the probability of getting a green is going to be 15 over the total, which is 24. So I can divide both numbers by 3, in which I get 5 over 8. So is he correct? No, because the chance of getting a green is the same for each bag, and that's what we need to tick. For question 10, it says Adele works out the answer to 4.1 minus root 30 and says that the over 19.23 and says the answer is positive. Is she correct? Well, let's have a look. So from this, if we estimate the answer, we get 4 minus root 30 over 19. Now, if we look at root 30, well, root 30 is between, and looking at the two square numbers that are between 30, that on either side of 30, it's going to be either between 5 and 6. So if root 30 is between 5 and 6, then the numerator will always be negative. So numerator will be negative, and a negative over a positive number will always equal a negative answer. So is she correct? No. Moving on to question 11, it says that house prices rise at a rate of 10% each year. In January 2020, Greta bought a house for 200,000. What is the value of the house in January 2022? So what we need to do is work out two lots of 10% being added. So in January 21, it's going to be 200,000 plus 10%. Now 10% of 200,000 is 20,000. So then the final price is going to be 220,000. Then in Jan 22, we take the 21 price, which is 220,000. We need to add 10%. Now 10% of 220,000 is going to be 22,000, which gives me a total of 242,000. So the value of the house is going to be 242,000. Make sure if you're going to use a comma, make sure it looks like a comma, not a decimal point. Moving on to question 12, it says Sarah has a circular piece of card with a diameter of 10 centimeters. She wants to cut out a rectangle whose sides and lengths are 8 and 6. Use Pythagoras' theorem to show that she can cut out the rectangle from the circular card. So from this, what we need to do is we need to work out this length here and compare that to the diameter. So working out this length here, we've got 8 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. So we've got 64 plus 36 equals x squared. So x squared equals 100. So therefore x equals 10, which is the same as the diameter. And there we go for that one. Moving on to question 13, it says which of these values cannot be the sine of an angle? So for this, the correct answer is going to be 4 because the values of a sine angle has to be between -1 and +1. For question 14, it says we've got to compare the coefficients. So for this, if I expand these two brackets, I get 5x squared, and it's going to be plus or minus 15x plus 2x minus 6, and that's plus ax plus b. If I neaten these two up, I get 5x squared, and that's going to be minus 13x plus ax. I'm just going to mix them around, and then I've got minus 6 plus b. Now that I've got rid of the brackets and I've simplified the left hand side, I can now write down the right hand side. So I've got 5x squared minus 16x plus 7. Now comparing the coefficients, so if I just write the coefficients of x, well, on this side I've got minus 13 plus a, and on the right hand side I've got minus 16. So therefore a equals minus 3. Then if I look at the coefficient of the constant, then I've got minus 6 plus b on the left hand side, and I've got 7 on the other side, which means that b equals, it's going to be 13. So my answer I should have is a equals minus 3 and b equals positive 13. Moving on to question 15, it says the piece of wood is 4 1/8 feet long. Peter cuts a length of 1 5/6 feet off the piece of wood. What fraction of the length of the wood has Pete cut off? So for this, what I need to work out is 1 5/6 over 4 1/8. Now for this, what I need to do is convert them so that they're both as a proper fraction. So then 1 5/6 becomes 11/6. Over, and 4 1/8 becomes 33/8. Now that, taking out the fractions, looks like this, and then when we're dividing fractions, I flip the second fraction, so it becomes 8/33, and change the division symbol for a plus. So from this, all I've then got to do is just multiply the top and the bottom, in which I get 88 over 198, and then I just want to then go on and simplify, and it does eventually simplify to give me 4/9. Now to get this, what I would strongly recommend that you do is probably simplify at this stage here. So I can divide both these by 11, and I can divide that by 2, and then it just becomes a lot smaller for us then to simplify the final answer. Moving on to question 16, it says work out the cube root of 27 times 2 to the power of minus 2. So for this, if I work out this bit here, well, 27 is a cube number, so cube root of 27 is 3, and 2 to the power of minus 2 is going to be the reciprocal of 2 squared. And so simplifying that, I get 3 times a quarter, which gives me a final answer of 3/4, and that as a decimal is 0.75. Moving on to question 17, it says in a game a fair spinner has 3 sections. Joe uses this method to work out the probability of getting a red and a blue from 2 spins. He writes that there are 3 colours, so the probability of a spinner landing on a red is 1/3, and landing on a blue is 1/3, and 1/3 times 1/3 is 1/9, so the probability is 1/9. And the question is asking for 2 criticisms of Joe's method, because clearly he is wrong. So the first criticism, and again you could have these in absolutely any order, what you want to state is something along the lines of is that there is not an equal chance of getting each colour. So in other words, you could say something along the lines, probability of getting a red or a blue is not equal to 1/3. You could also go along the lines of saying that red is going to be equal to 1/4. Another one is that he should multiply by 2 rather than squaring. Then for question 17b, it says the probability of getting 2 yellows from 2 spins is 25 over 81. Work out the angle of the yellow sector. Well, for this, the probability of getting a yellow, now we don't know what the probability is, but the probability of getting a yellow is A over B. Let's just assume that the probability of getting a yellow is A over B. Now the probability of getting 2 yellows, well, we need to do A over B times A over B. If I've got to do times 2 yellows. So that becomes A squared over B squared. Now that is going to be equal to 25 over 81. So A squared equals 25, B squared equals 81. We can't have negative A and B values. So then what we've got is the probability of a yellow is going to be 5 over 9. So then if I then do 5 over 9 multiplied by 360, because that's the total angle, 5 over 9 is the proportion as well as the probability. So then we divide 360 by 9, multiplied by 5, and I get the final answer of 200. Moving on to question 18, it says show that, and we've got this algebraic fraction simplifies to give us 22x minus 3 over 12. Well, for this, what we need to do is we need to try and get a common denominator. So here, our common denominator of both of these two is going to be 12. So to get common denominator of 12 for the first fraction, I need to times by 4. So that's going to be 16x plus 12. And then for the second fraction to be have a denominator of 12 rather, I need to multiply everything by 3. So that's going to be 6x minus 15. Then with the common denominator, I can then just add up the numerators together, in which if I do that, I get 22x minus 3 over 12, which is exactly what they wanted me to show. Question 19 says that a circle has an equation of x squared plus y squared equals 100. Work out the length of the radius. Well, the equation of a circle is this. So r squared equals 100. So r is going to equal 10. Then moving on to question 20, it says that the area in centimetre square of the triangle is 20 centimetre square. Work out the value of sine x. Well, to work out the area, it's going to be a half AB sine C. Now I know that the area is 20, so we've got 20 equals a half. This is A, that's B, and that's angle C. So I've got 8 times 10 times sine C. Well, simplifying all of this, well, this is 80. 80 divided by 2 is 40. So I've got 20 equals 40 sine C. Take the 40 over by dividing by 40, in which I get a half equals sine C. So the value of sine x is going to be a half, or 0.5. Moving on to question 21, it says express 0.36 recurring as a fraction in its simplest form. So for this, what we need to do is make the decimal equal to x. Then we multiply both sides by 10, so I get 3.6 recurring. I multiply x by another 10, so we get 100x equals 36.6 recurring. Now, as we've now got the same recurring pattern after the decimal point, I can take these two things out. So I've got 100x equals 36.6 recurring, 10x, which is 3.6 recurring. Take the two things away and I get 90x equals 33. So x equals 33 over 90. Divide both sides by 3 and I get 11 over 30, which is my final answer. Moving on to question 22, it says in the Venn diagram, we've got that all the numbers add up to 75 students in a year group. V is the number of students who play the violin. P is the number of students who play the piano. It says 54 students play only the violin or only the piano. So if I just highlight this bit of information, this area here plus this area here has got to add up to 54. We know that 5/6 of the 54 students play the violin only, so that's this section here. So I can then work that out. So looking at this, I've got 5, 6 of 54. Well, 56 divided by 4 is 9, times 5 is 45. So this answer here is going to be 45. So I can then work out what this section here is going to be. So that's going to be 54 minus 45, which is 9. So that's 2 sections filled. It then says that the number of students that play the violin is 4 times the number that play the piano. So if I start just by labeling this as X, then what we've got is the violin is 4 times. So if I quadruple the number of people who play the piano, so this is going to be 45 plus X equals 4 lots of X plus 9. So then from this, if I simplify this, I get X plus 45 equals 4X plus 36. Take the X and take the numbers over to the other side, so I end up with 9 equals 3X. So X equals 3. So then what I can then do is scribble this X out and replace that with a 3. Now we know that all the numbers need to add up to 75. So to work out this number here, I do 75 minus 45 minus 3 minus 9, which leaves me with an answer of 18. And that is my Venn diagram completed. Moving on to question 23, it says that Laura buys a bike and a safety helmet at Wiggins bike store. The prices displayed do not include VAT, which is charged at 20%. Laura works out that she will need to pay £600 for both items when VAT is added, but she will pay less than this because VAT is not charged on a helmet, which is actually true. She paid £528 for the bike. Work out the saving by not paying VAT on the helmet. Give your answer as a percentage of the whole amount that Laura thought she would have to pay. So let's work this out in stages, as it is worth 5 marks. So for this, what we want to work out is how much the payment's going to cost when VAT is not added. So the total amount minus VAT. So for this, it's looking at £600 divided by 1.2. So it's going to be 600 divided by 1.2, which is 6,000 divided by 12. And then if we simplify and keep simplifying down, we get an answer of £500. And again, that'll be 3,000 divided by 6. We can divide both by 3, so that then becomes 1,000 divided by 2, and then we get 500. And so the next step we then need to do is then do how much the bike cost with VAT. So the price of the bike with VAT. So that's going to be 528, again divided by 1.2. So I've got 528 divided by 1.2, which is 528 over 12. Stick a 0 there. And then if we keep dividing that, we should get an answer of 440. So then, looking at this, that the helmet then costs, so the price of the helmet is therefore going to be, and again, if you're not sure about how I've got 440, because I feel as if I've rushed that, what we can then do is basically keep dividing by 2. So 5280 divided by 2 is going to give me 2040 divided by 6. And then I can divide by, and then I can just work it out using the bus stop method, in which I'd end up with 440. So then from this, going back to the price of the helmet, that's going to be 500 minus 440, which is £60. Then from this, the VAT on the helmet is going to be 20% of £60, which is £12. And then we want to write that as a fraction, so it's going to be 12 over 600. And we can simplify that by dividing by 4. So we've got 3 over 150. We can then divide by 3 again. So we've got 1 over 50, which we can then, as a percentage, is going to be 2 over 100. So the answer then is going to be 2%. Moving on to question 24, it says that a sequence of numbers is formed by an iterative process of n plus 1, and then we've got an squared minus an. Describe the sequence when the numbers of an minus 1. So to find a2, what I've got to do, let's just start by writing a1 first. So a1 equals 1, then a2 is going to be the previous answer squared, take away the answer. So that's going to give me 0. Then a3 is going to be 0 squared minus 0, which is 0. a4 is going to be 0 squared minus 0 equals 0. So describing the sequence, they're all zeros. Then for question 24b, it says describe the sequence when a equals minus 1. So a1 equals minus 1. a2 is going to be the previous answer squared minus the previous answer. So minus 1 squared is 1. Minus minus 1 becomes plus 1, so that becomes 2. Then a3 will be 2 squared minus 2, and that's going to give me 4 take away 2, which is 2. a4 is going to be then the same, so it's going to be 2 squared minus 2, which equals 2. So in other words, they're all 2's. Then moving on to question 24c, it says work out the value of a2 when a1 equals 1 minus root 2. So a2 is going to be equal to 1 minus root 2 squared minus 1 minus root 2. Now looking at this to begin with, I don't know why I've put a line there, let me get rid of that. So looking at this, this is going to be double brackets, so that's going to be 1 minus root 2, 1 minus root 2. So expanding all the brackets, I get 1 minus root 2 minus root 2 plus root 4. So that gives me 1 minus 2 root 2 plus 2, which simplifies to give me minus 3. It's going to give me 3 minus 2 root 2. Then if I take away 1 minus root 2, well, expanding that out, I end up with 3 minus 2 root 2 minus 1 plus root 2. So then simplifying the numbers, 3 take away 1 is 2, and minus root 2 plus root 2 is going to give me minus 1 root 2, or I could write that as 2 minus root 2. So any of those ways would be absolutely fine. Moving on to question 25, it says write 10 over root 2 plus root 18 in the form of a root b, where b is a prime number. So first of all, let's simplify root 18. So root 18 is root 9 times root 2, which is 3 root 2. So what we've then got is 10 over root 2 plus 3 root 2. Now from this, what I then want to do is try and have a common denominator, or rationalise this numerator. So if I take this first, if I rationalise that, I'll do it over here. So I've got 10 root 2. If I multiply that by root 2, then with 10 root 2 over root 4, which equals 10 root 2 over 2, which equals 5 root 2. So what this then becomes is 5 root 2 plus 3 root 2, which equals 8 root 2. Now you could have done it different ways. Your way might be a little bit longer, it may even be shorter, but ultimately you should have the correct answer of 8 root 2. Moving on to question 26. So here what we've got is we've got a simultaneous equation. Now typically what you would generally write is you would try and get, looking at the linear equation, you want to get the one single letter, the subject. So here it's a lot easier for me to make y the subject, so I've got y equals 2x minus 5. Then what I then need to do is substitute this into the y that's in the nonlinear equation, so I've got x squared minus 2 lots of 2x minus 5, and that equals 31. So then expanding the brackets, we get x squared minus 4x plus 10 equals 31. Slowly looks like quadratic, so I've got x squared minus 4x, and that's going to be minus 21 equals 0. And then I can factorize this, so I've got x minus 7, x plus 3 equals 0. So my 2x values are x equals 7 or x equals minus 3. So then here, when x equals 7, using y equals 2x minus 5, I've got y equals 14 take away 5, so y equals 9. So one set of values is going to be 7 and 9. So let me just write that here. So x equals 7, y equals 9. And then using when x equals minus 3, or y is going to equal 2 times minus 3, which is minus 6, take away 5, so y equals minus 11. So my second values, or second set of values, are x equals minus 3 and y equals minus 11. So then in the answer box, all I need to do is just write minus 3 and minus 11. So then moving on to our last question, it says that A, B, C, D are points on a circle with centre O. AC is the diameter of the circle, AT is the tangent of the circle, and the question is asking us to work out the angle of angle X and angle Y. So looking at this diagram, I can see quite a lot of circle theorems and angle facts that I need to be aware of. So straight off the bat, I can see a bow. So this angle here is the same as this angle here, so that's going to be 36. If AC is the diameter of the circle, then this angle here is going to be 90 degrees, and if AT is a tangent, then the radius meets the tangent at 90 degrees, so that angle there is going to be 90. So let's first of all start by working out x. So finding x, if I take this triangle out here, and I just draw that triangle out, and it's not going to be to scale, but or even might not even resemble it. So what I've got is I've got this. Well, I know that using angle facts, angles inside a triangle add up to 180. So 180 minus 36 minus 90 equals x. So I can then work out that x equals 54 degrees. Then if I look at the triangle, this triangle here, so let's just draw this triangle there, that I can then work out what angle this is because it's opposite to this angle. So if this angle here is 95, this angle here is also going to be 95. So if I draw another triangle, which I've highlighted in orange, so let me do that in orange so you can see which triangle I'm actually doing, and just take this triangle out. This angle here is 95, this angle here is 36. So to work out what angle this is, I can then work out 180 minus 36 minus 95, which gives me an answer of 49 degrees. So this angle here is 49. Then if I take this out, then what I find is this angle, which is 90 degrees, this angle here is y, and this angle here is 49. So y equals 90 minus 49, so y equals 41 degrees. And there you can see I've got my value of x and my value of y.